Welcome to First Sundays with Black Poet Laureates, a podcast of the National Black Poet Laureate Society. I am your host, Rhea Carmon, Executive Director of the Society. Each month on the first Sunday, we will celebrate the voices, visions, and verses of Black Poet Laureates across the United States. These are the poets who carry the weight and the honor of their communities, their stories, and who transform the ordinary into extraordinary. These are the poets that remind us that poetry is not just an art form. It's a lifeline, a mirror, and a beacon. The National Black Poet Laureate Society is dedicated to amplifying the work of Black Poet Laureates, fostering community among these poets and poetry lovers, and ensuring the rich tradition of Black poets. There's excellence through this organization, and it continues to thrive as we have more and more Black Poet Laureates joining our ranks. Through our anthology series, which is In the Fullness of the Word, our annual conferences and conversations like the one we're about to have, we will continue to build a living archive of Black Poet Laureate brilliance.
Today, I am honored to be in conversation with my brother in rhyme, somebody that I have known longer than I have even been married. And an amazing poet, an amazing human being altogether, the one and only Dasan Ahanu. He is Poet Laureate Emerita of Piedmont. It's a area, right? It's a
Regional, yep.
Piedmont covers
Mhm.
regional. It's a regional position. So, tell us just a little bit about yourself, Dasan, and then we'll dive right into our conversation.
Yes. So, as you said, my name is Dasan Ahanu. I'm based in North Carolina. North Carolina, born and raised. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina. Um, Settled into Durham, North Carolina, which is where a lot of my work over the last 20 years has been done, and based and currently back in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am a poet and spoken word artist, which is how I kind of carved my path in art and culture, but have also grown into being a curator and cultural organizer. I'm also a playwright, co-founder and managing director of an African American theater company called Black Poetry Theater that does original spoken word and poetry-based theatrical productions. Um, Trade arts administrator, so someone who looks to help um, enhance the arts ecosystem here in my area and across the state, while also kind of, doing what I can for the art form across the country whenever possible. And then more recently, just helping to use what we know as artists to help organizations and institutions engage better internally and externally.
Awesome. And we haven't talked in a couple of years, so
Mm.
I'm really excited about this conversation just because we get to catch up. I'm like, I have to Facebook stalk you these days to find out what's going on in your world.
Mhm.
You're like all over the country and just doing big things. Um, First, tell us, where did this name, Dasan Ahanu, come from?
It was my attempt to make myself comfortable signing up on the open mic list. Once someone finally convinced me to do so, um, you know, um, Chris Massenburg just didn't seem like it was the right way. So the first couple times I signed up my name, and my family calls me by my middle name, which is Dion, and close friends use that name. And so that didn't feel right either. And my family uh name is kind of, has a certain significance. Um, and once you kind of attach that to a name, it's like, does this space or this environment fit? And that space didn't seem to fit either name. It wasn't familiar enough for me to go by my middle name, and it wasn't formal enough for me to use my first name. And that was traditionally how I was raised to use my first and middle name. So I was like, okay, so then what do I do? And then I was really into hip hop and tried some of, some of those things and some of the names I had used in ciphers and things like that. And that didn't quite feel right. To be completely honest, I walked into a poetry set. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I didn't know people did this. I wrote, but I did not know that that thing existed. So I really didn't know what fit. And so to make myself comfortable, I decided
Hmm.
to kind of identify myself in a way that made me feel comfortable being in that space. And so Dasan Ahanu was it. Dasan means, one of the meanings is ruler, and Ahanu, one of the meanings is someone who laughs. So I say it's someone who commands with a sense of humor. And the translations are indigenous. So um and that was sort of just a nod to some of the stories about my dad's side of the family and my grandmother was proud to tell me. Um, and that idea, of being someone who could command a space or command and with their presence was, kind of made me feel okay getting comfortable on stage. I was extremely stage shy and I had a lot and so I kind of created this sense of myself named Dasan Ahanu.
That's awesome. So, like, when you decided to step to the mic and do this, was it something that you originally saw yourself doing as a career, like as your lifelong, did you always say, you know what, I want to be a poet when I grow up? Like, what was that
Nah,
maturation into this amazing career that you have, built and created?
I had no sense, no idea, no notion. Um, I started because there was, I was welcomed. I was encouraged, kind of shoved, and then I was welcomed. And it was like, okay, this is cool. I can come in here and kind of just, get things off my chest. And so it was a lot of stream of
Hmm.
consciousness, a lot of tongue in cheek, a lot of, this is what I think, and I can't just run around telling everybody this is how I think. So I'll tell y'all. Um, but like had no sense. I discovered that there were open mics. I found one, then discovered that there was another. And we have a lot of colleges around. So of course there's a lot of people from all over the country, which is how these things got started. There are folks who came here who were used to these things existing. I didn't know. So I'm like, okay, I guess people go to open mics to spit. And that's all I knew. The first time some touring poets who were spoken word artists found out that these sets existed and they could hit them up, whether they were featured or whether they were just coming through to spit and sling CDs. I was like, hold on, y'all are touring? People do that? And that kind of was like, okay. So I just kind of, curious as I am, just started hopping in the car wherever I could drive to and started trying to hit up spots because I'm like, what is this? But still had no idea.
Mm.
This all happened, everything that Dasan Ahanu is happened because of community. I was lucky enough to be curious and fascinated enough that I was just showing up at all the art stuff. It was like poetry. Oh, no, hold on,
Right.
there's poetry. Hold on, there's art exhibits. Hold on. What are these live music sets? Hold on, what's this over here? There's an artist doing a lecture. Hold on, what's this? There's a panel. What's this? So I met folks who were like, um, so like, do you want to try this? Or there's an opportunity over here, or did you know about this? And that's how it's been ever since. The first jobs I got in the arts were because of that. I had a moment where I got laid off from work and I was in between jobs, and the community kind of was like, well, there's a theater company over here that needs someone to help in the office. I was like, bet I got to figure it out. So, but I got to pay rent. So, okay, cool. Um, when I got done with that, um, I decided that I wanted um, to do, I was trying to figure out, and I got asked to do some youth work and got an offer to do some writing programs for youth.
Mhm.
And that kind of led to another thing and kind of connected me to, to a whole new community of folks. And then I did some things with, at-risk youth, but I was willing especially because they were young folks who looked like me, willing to do some programs with some intervention programs. And it was just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's always that say yes kind of thing of like, I don't quite know what to do, but I'll figure it out and I'm open to the experience. And it filled the gaps and it kept filling in the gaps as I was trying to navigate until I finally got to a place where I was like, nah, I don't let's see if this can be more than just a fill in. And I got
Right.
presented
Okay.
with an opportunity. I had an opportunity to run an office and for an organization that I had come in to kind of fill in temporarily for. And then I got offered from the school I ended up graduating undergrad from to come work with the English department and do some things on campus. And I chose that. And that was sort of the kind of tipping point.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. I like that. It's like you were just filling in the gaps until it was like, wait a minute, this isn't to fill in the gaps. This is it. Like
Yeah.
it's not about a gap anymore. This is where I'm supposed to be. So that's like awesome. And I know like back during the pandemic you were working with the Hayti Heritage Center and now you started the Black Poetry Theater and you also do work in Raleigh and Durham and Chapel Hill. Like, what does it look like for you to collaborate, across all of these organizations and cities and spaces?
Mhm. Well, for me, it's a matter of survival. It's one of those things that I think a lot of artists, I came to understand the more I talk to folks that like
Hmm.
there's you have to kind of build a capacity for yourself. And some folks build it on the road, just like many musicians or comedians, like, let me just be out and let's see what I can earn and also who I can meet, what connections I can meet, and how I can build a name and reputation for myself. There's some of us who, do a little bit of that, but that isn't the primary driver. And then there,
Hmm.
some of those folks teach you know, public school, or college, and then there's some folks who work with organizations, arts organizations and things who understand that these are practicing, working professional artists, and are able to kind of blend those worlds and use their expertise and also some of the connections that they've made um, in service to that organization. So it's just got to build it. And so for me, that was how I was trying to figure out how to build the right fit
Hmm.
for me. And, I needed something on both sides. Like I needed a creative outlet, but I'm a puzzle person. I like to put things together. I like to build. I like to create, not just art. And so I like to build capacity. I like to create opportunities and experiences and moments. And so each time I work with someone, I'm like, I got a different sense of what's possible. And I'm like, okay, how does that work? First time I worked with someone who was curating something, a large event or a large festival, I'm like, okay, I understand curation. And I came to understand the difference between a curation and event planning. Okay, I get it.
Hmm.
And then it's like, okay, I started asking questions, working with folks who were leading organizations. So I'm like, okay, let me kind of understand what it means on this art administration side. I was developing programs, but what does it mean to, I'm next to the CFO and kind of like, okay, executive director, artistic director, what does this all
Hmm.
mean? And so yeah, so that's how it's been. I've moved from the classroom, um, working at an institution. They got me to get my master's so that I could continue to teach at that level. Um, and then here in North Carolina, there's like six big cities, if you will. Most of the state is
Hmm.
rural. And so, um, and being that community is such a big part of what I do, that took me across the state. Like until I could make connections to be able to do more where I live, I'm out and about. Like if it's driving distance, and we're lucky, it's driving culture. Public transportation is exists, but it's not like major cities. And
Right.
it's 2 hours to the coast, 4 hours to the mountains, 2 hours to the net, 3 hours to South Carolina to the state line. So it's drivable. And I was like, have car, have keys, we'll go. And so that's just how that worked. It was just what I felt like I needed to do, and kind of just built a base here, um, diving into, both sides of how this works.
Gotcha. And so with that, like, how do you bring in the youth? Because I
Mhm.
know that that's a big thing for you. So, you're across the state, but you're also mentoring young people at the same time. How do you help build their capacity while you're mentoring and, working your thing across the state as well? Are they going with you, or is that something
No,
that you?
yeah, no, that's a good question. Partnership,
Mhm,
is just being open with the fact that, I kind of, um, by the time I got through college, I had done a lot of youth programs. I've had worked with Head Start, after school programs. I worked with Parks and Rec during the summer. My mom was just sure that I was going to be a teacher. Um, and so, but and there was just family folks in my family who I worked with and around. So I had been working, in those spaces. And so I was willing. And so if it's like, when you meet someone and they're like, I'm working with a youth program, would you be willing to come and speak with them? I'm like, yeah.
mhm.
And this, you kind of then you have to you your chops get built in real time. Like your
Right.
ability to be able to navigate and maneuver is in the heat of the moment, in the midst of the fire. Like, so that's sort of just how it happened. And also, I credit community is the intersection. So like I'm just kind of, initially I'm there just to help folks want to write. And if it's poetry, if it's spoken word, if it's hip hop, which is a
Hmm.
big thing for me, then I'm like, yeah, let's just see and let's encourage. But I'm also at the same time, by working across community, meeting folks, especially my age or younger, around my age group, who are also kind of establishing themselves in other aspects, whether it's mental health, whether it's social work, whether it's, all these other
Gotcha.
kinds of things. And so I've got folks around me, and we're all socializing, but also chopping it up, where it's like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm curious by nature. So, oh, I wonder, like, that makes like, well, let me explain. Like, so I'm building a capacity to kind of think about what I'm doing in these programs. And I'm also involved in community organizing. So I've got mentors and elders who are educators, and, who've been boots to the ground in community with young folks, and all the way up to elders, just you know attending to their needs, helping empower them, helping lift them up,
Right.
helping pulling them under their arm and saying, okay, let me help you, let me help guide you. And so I'm just gleaning a lot of wisdom and just trying to figure out how I can have the most impact. And so that's been how that happened. um just that willingness to kind of take in and learn, and then I
Yeah.
get a chance to practice it in real time.
Yeah. I love that. I know. Just today, I was able to do a workshop with some young people, and they were all like, "We are not poets, Miss Rhea. Like, we don't know what to do." And so we just started with something simple. I was like, "Just introduce yourself to me as a haiku, 575. Let's do it." And then once they all did it, I was like, now you're all poets. So now let's dive in. Like,
Hmm.
let's get in here and let's talk
Hmm.
about our identities and let's put that into some poetry. And it ended up being a really great day. And several of them, I find that young people are shy because they don't, they just don't want, unless it's been instilled in them to stand up in front of people and bare their soul. It is it's just not, it doesn't come as natural for some, but they all wanted me to read their poem. So it wasn't even a matter of getting to share it out. It was, but here, I do want you to know that I tapped in and that I was able to really create something beautiful. So I love that you mentor the young people. I love babies. Okay, in my heart. So
Yeah.
being able to work with them is. It's always a joy. Sometimes I like kids more than adults. So
Well, yeah, and then but by being able to be on the college campus, it also kind of extended my range because now I have
mm,
and being in the English department, I'm seeing a lot of incoming freshmen, so I get to see
oh
their
wow.
matriculation. Like I'm there, I get to meet them when they get there as freshmen because they're
Wow.
navigating their English classes. And then their
Mm-hmm.
sophomores and juniors, and some of them are coming back to me because they're artists and they're creating and they're doing things. But just in general, I'm on a small HBCU campus. I'm showing up when you cross. I'm at the game if you play a sport. I'm on
Right.
campus out and about and and so I have to also give credit to the young folks that I've had a chance to work with on campus in, these community based programs, poetry clubs, things like that, because they helped teach me how to teach as
Right.
well. Just
Yes.
their
They
willingness to
are
kind of,
honest.
yeah, just their willingness to kind of trust me and be willing
Mm-hmm.
to let me know what's going on, what worked, what didn't work, what they like, what they didn't like, and just kind of help me understand, like, oh, okay, all right, okay, I got it now.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Yeah, I found that, you get the honesty from the young folks. Like older people try to be nice and they're like, oh, okay. But yeah, young folks, they'll tell you when it's not working. It's like
Mhm.
it's not working for me. So I do appreciate that. But before we jump into all of your wonderful books and the thoughts behind some of the poetry in those books, I would like for you to share a poem with us. So if you don't mind, would you share a poem with us?
Sure. This poem is called Art Appreciation. They said that black boy in abstract painting not fit for realism. His shadow, a print destined for newspaper condemnation, an outline intended for an asphalt hanging. They said that boy is a masterpiece crafted by a brush made of old Dixie and bristled disregard. His shadow, a sun-kissed reproduction that should be God canvas testimony inside a happy church. They say his shadow became a replication packaged in a body bag, the two of them, two sides of a tragedy no one wants to claim responsibility for. The main attraction in an art gallery full of temporary exhibitions. His shadow say, I never intended to be the next best goodbye the news is waiting to report. I never wanted to be the right behind you that turned into a death-denying spooning that saw us laying, fading as we both gasp our last duet over the melody of trigger and smoke, it say. I just wanted to be the affirmation of your shine and brilliance, the applause of your resilience, not the stained soap wonder of will I get a chalk outline to his shadow ass. Can you tell me if I'll be able to survive in that casket beside you in no sunlight? Can a shadow make it to heaven with you? If I asked for repentance right before our song ended, was it enough ad lib to save the both of us? Hopefully, God recognizes backup singers at the gates. Maybe my second life will be as your white choir robe. The bullet holes will be where the wings will fit through. His mama cries. You look so beautiful laid there. An impressionism that hatred considers spot on. This is the kind of art denial and disregard can make a stroke of genius that frames us as something other than human, just a work fit for 6 feet under a dirt covered family asset. A people question, ain't we more valuable as martyr? Ain't we better as beloved memory? Ain't we just a thing to speak of but not hold? An only begotten son that ain't gonna ever know no more dawns or happy days? Ain't they happy to curate us in the graveyards and frame the tombstones as exhibition? They just gonna label the propagandized justification and artist statement and call the heartache and agony that comes after we both laid to rest art appreciation. Family say that black boy looked beautiful at the funeral. His mama, the community, his shadow, his pastor asks, "Ain't we just art appreciation? Ain't we? Ain't we?"
Wow, that is amazing. Did that was that piece inspired by a piece of art or
Great question. So, our North Carolina State Poet Laureate, Jackie Shelton Green, um, did a workshop and she showed a video and it was some dancers and choreographers who the piece starts with them, they're painted and they're on a painted backdrop. So they are a piece of art. And
Mm-hmm.
it's Black boys, young Black men, and they move out off that painting and they go out a door. So it's like a living room scene. They go out the door and they're now outside. But they're still painted art, but they're now in a real environment and they're moving through the city and kind of just engaging with people's perceptions and ideas and thoughts and ultimately end up gunned down. And so it ends with them as art laying in the street. And I was just like, yo, that is
And is this
crazy.
a play or this is just
It was
one
just
piece?
a it was just one piece. It was a video, probably like 3 4 minutes. Just
Okay.
this art piece that she had that these dancers had made.
Mm-hmm.
And the it was brilliant. It was so brilliant. Um, and yeah, and so she kind of debriefed it a little bit, but as soon as they got to the end scene, I was already writing. So
Yeah, I
um
could. It almost felt like an ekphrastic piece. Like
mhm,
there was some piece of art that inspired it. So
yeah.
that was awesome. I love that. Like Shadow asked, "Can I exist in the casket with you?"
Mhm.
And I was like, "Whoa." Your language, the way you speak. Southern language in your poetry. Why is that so important? Because as I read through your books, I have several of them. And audience, you need to go buy all of them as well. Um, but as I read through your books, your language and your attention to just the Southern Black language is so powerful. But why is that so important to you in your writing?
Mm. Um, that's one of those things that shifted. When I first started, that wasn't the case. What happened
Wow.
was
Okay.
I tell people all the time what happened was I didn't have, I was not as aware that I am Black and Southern until I left the
Wow.
South. And growing up, we didn't do a whole lot of traveling. Went to the beach, but I didn't until I got into college, and I didn't really start seeing the rest of the country until I was an artist. And I was like, hold on, I don't think I like this thing, right?
Mm.
And I had to ask a couple people who were Southern, like, am I tripping? They were like, nah. And they were like, this is real.
Mhm.
And so what that did for my work was it made me have to ask myself, if this is what I'm facing, right? And it made me more aware of it even back home, because I stay in a place with a lot of transplants. And I'm like, if this is what I'm facing that I never paid attention to because of the environment and spaces I'm in, um, and this is what I'm going to be navigating, how do I want to show up? Right? Like, now
Wow.
that I know,
Hmm.
how do I want to show up in these spaces? And I made a decision. I'm going to show up in a way that if one of the first things that's going to happen is I'm going to be treated as Black and Southern, then I'm going to make sure that my work redefines what that means for you. And
I love
so
that.
that's where that came from. And it meant that my attention, my editing, my revision, the things I paid attention to, the things that I was looking to for inspiration, whether it was poetry or art or literature or anything else, like I just needed to not refine, because I'm Southern, I got a Southern voice, but I needed to decide how I wanted to own and utilize my voice as a Southern poet, especially a Southern Black poet. So that's what happened. Like,
Mm.
I was just writing, and I never thought about it. Um, but then once I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. We're not doing this. So you can have whatever perception you want, but just know that when it's my time to do what I do, we're gonna have to rethink this notion. Um,
Hmm.
you're gonna have to, and then and give credit where credit is due, because we're not gonna mischaracterize or misrepresent what it is over here. Um,
Right.
just because you don't get it, like it, understand it, or can't replicate it. No, that's not our problem. That's yours.
I love that. I love that. I think about when I'm thinking about what you said, I think about Huggy Bear, and he has a poem about being a Bama. And I grew up part of my life in Alabama, and so it's just that. It's like, let me redefine what a Bama is for you, because it's had such a negative connotation. Anytime somebody says somebody was Bama, it was negative. But I'm gonna change what you think about what a Bama is. So maybe one of these days I'll be able to get Huggy on here. I've been asking because he's a poet laureate in Alabama now. So
Hmm.
um, I absolutely love that. So um, I did have another question, and it just so your latest book, I want to make sure that is a Shackle Freedom. You didn't put out another one since that one, did you?
So, man, look, I learned a valuable lesson. So after Shackled Freedom is A Month of Sundays. So
Okay,
the
I
publisher who
don't
put
have that
out
one.
publisher who put don't worry, I'll get you caught up. Publisher who put up who did Shackled Freedom, I reached back out to, we talked and we agreed to put out Month of Sundays. And it closed that trilogy. So there's a Black Life trilogy, Everything We're
Hmm.
Fighting For, Shackled Freedom. And the third is A Month of Sundays, A Journey Through Black Southern Christianity. And I did that in honor of my grandmothers. And so that was in 2024. So I did a while I was my Piedmont Laureateship was in 2023. I did a chapbook. I wanted to play around with this concept, and it was inspired by Andre 3000. The conversation he had with Rick Rubin, where he kind of talked about why he walked
Hmm.
away. So I did a chapbook, but the next full length was A Month of Sundays, and then actually developed a play based off of that book called Saints and Ain'ts. Then I was like, all right, I'm chilling. I submitted, um, I had an idea, one of those kind of like last minute ideas, and I went digging through stuff I had been working on, pulled a manuscript together. I said, let me just get some feedback on it. I sent it out. Um, it was selected. So then the most recent book published last year was called Concrete Jungle Allegories. It's a collection
Okay.
of narrative poems, which I work a lot of narrative, but like the whole collection, that's what that is. And so that won the Unsung Poets Award with Jakar Press and Sable Books. So that was book 7. So I got a couple of you that I'll get in the mail to you. But yeah, so I have been chilling since, because that was, 2 books back to back was intense.
It's a
Um,
lot.
yeah. The same music. You can't be dropping these things year after year. It's a lot. So, but it's good. I'm waiting because once again I did this residency and I had a chance to play with form and and it worked out pretty well. So I'm waiting to see that um if someone's interested in working with me on that as a chapbook. Um and then we gonna work on some other things for a little bit before anybody gets another full length collection.
Yeah. Totally understand. Sorry for my nice little puppy.
Mhm.
Um, he got a lot to say. All right. So, quote, storytelling is a means of deepening our understanding and awareness of what's happening around us. How does that happen? And give me or give us an example of how you use poetry to change understanding.
Yeah, see, the thing that I always talk about, and especially like this is something I came to understand just by being, raised up in community and trained by organizers, um, you know, civil rights advocates, union activists, that is we're in a society where we we love to argue and debate sides, right? And then when I got involved, more involved in the academy, same thing with intellectualism. Like we kind of just, put the gloves on and be ready to go at it. And then now also with the growth of like content, there's, you have talking heads and pundits and folks who are, whose whole jobs are to argue ideologies, perspectives, opinions.
Mm-hmm. Oh
And
yeah,
but one thing you can't do, and this is the organizer in me, you can't do the same with a person's story, right?
that's
And
right.
if you
Mm-hmm.
do, it says something about who you are and where you are. I know
Yes,
automatically if I'm telling you how a thing impacts a real person and you refuse to acknowledge that, then I know exactly who I'm dealing with and I know exactly how to approach you because this isn't philosophical anymore. This is real. And so where do you
right.
really stand and what do you really believe? And are you willing to stand on what your approach to that story says to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
what I'm saying? Even now, trolling and what have you, like there's a thing we play devil's advocate. Like there's this thing we learn to do, but okay, all right, cool. Well, yesterday, this is what happened to this person. If you still holding on to that, all right, cool. But at that moment, we got to have a different conversation. So that was the thing. I'm like, my opportunity is to use this art in a way that helps open the door for a different understanding. So if I can tell these stories, if I
Mm-hmm.
can place it, people resonate with stories, they understand stories. Things
Great.
sound better if it's in a story form. So if I get the opportunity to do that, then I can touch people in most places. I can touch you in your heart, I can touch you in your soul, I can touch you in your mind. And we can, if we don't have the conversation then, I can I can feel like that maybe you'll maneuver a little different. They say
Mm-hmm.
if you know better, you got to do better, you got to act better. So I'm like, what can I do to help people, give people an understanding? So that's 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 both the artist and the organizer in me, whether it's my story or my attempt to be to like consider and handle someone else's story with care. What can I do with that story, and what does it mean for the for the and then as an audience I'm like I'll tell you the story and how does that set you up for when that person comes to have the conversation with you, right? What can I do to
Wow.
prepare you for the conversation in a
Mm-hmm.
way that that's going to hit a little differently so the work that they're doing is going to resonate with you because someone has had a chance to help you understand this a little differently. And so we may not know each other, but I'm working on my side and I know you working on your side, and so how
Mm-hmm.
together can we have as much impact as possible?
I love it. Speaking of story, I
Hmm.
hope you're ready to give us another poem.
Yeah. Um, so this one, speaking of my grandmother's, this is sort of another one of those things that I was trying to wrestle with after losing my second grandmother. Um, just thinking about the person they shaped me into. So it's called a center searching. Some days I don't know why God loves me. I do know that I can't let go of the idea that he do, and I ain't pious. Some days I've been downright devilish, spent twice as much time trying to good my way clean. It's like a daily baptismal and work ethic. I wade in the river purpose looking for redemption instead of reverence. Spent so many moments trying to make the right decision, trying to survive a tug of war between battle and consideration. Some would say that I have an angel and a devil on opposite shoulders. I actually have a pastor and a caterer, one bringing me prophecy, the other cooking up trouble, both feeding me something different, both taking turns being the voice of reason. These some days I don't know why God meant so much to my grandmothers. I do know they both called him the reason. I know they never called him the answer, just the one we had to reason with if we ever got the answer wrong. I only know redemption because they lived long enough to model it. They both gone now. And I ain't quite sure if they got it right, so I don't know if I will either. Haven't had that moment where they reached down to let me know they sitting in the midst of God. I just choose to think so. Choose to believe that it's their words in his ear that keeps me from succumbing to my self-destructive tendencies. Choose to trust that they'll know when to remind me that my God has use for me still. I believe because anything else feels like blasphemy. See, I'm just a sinner searching, trying to become the saint I saw in my grandmother's eyes. I mean, I don't quote scriptures or anything. I can't remember any word for word. Can't quote sermons. I read the Bible through most of them. Fire and brimstone wasn't classroom enough, but I'd sit in Sunday service and feel like it was a teachable moment underutilized, listen to the choir and feel like that joyful noise was just announcing entry into a gated community. But somehow things biblical find their way into my poems. Somehow performances turn pulpit preaching, more exposition than set up a transition, more Pentecost than pent-up aggression, more altar call than charismatic leadership. These testimonies feel like glory from up on high. I want my grandmothers to know I found my dirt church. I want God to know I know him, that I don't think I'm the one who got me here. And I wish I could talk about all the what I got through, how I didn't know where I was going or how to work my way into the man I be now. If you knew all the damn things I have done, it would be shocking. See, what folks call wisdom and insight didn't all come from the right side of the tracks. Some of it came from misguided attempts to make the wrong side home. And I hope my grandmothers are up there apologizing for all the times I thank God for not letting me get caught up trying to make my foolishness seem less wrong by implying that God was there for it, painting him as complicit in my heresy, even though I never bothered to ask him about it first. And ain't that just like man? I mean, ain't that funny about prayer? The before seems like a conversation you ain't got to have. After seems like obligation to a guilty conscience. If anybody questions you, then you say God already said that salvation was yours. And some days I don't know why God loves me, but I refuse to let go of the belief that he do. No, I got angels that raised me, New Testament taught me the value of a hard day's work, showed me the strength of conviction, was giving black women wisdoms that told the world that their grandbaby was nothing less than blessed, told me to make sure I never let anyone think that what they see is anything less than assurance, told God to make sure I was nothing less than covered. So here I am telling all of you that every day still here is nothing less than a testimony. So now let the church say, Amen.
Amen. Amen. Ah, man, what a wonderful tribute to your grandmothers. Um, I know, I I think they caught me crying during one of my news interviews because, you know, looking back at the history of like grandmothers and great grandmothers, and um, I told them, I said, I don't think that when this little slave cook started our family, um, that she ever thought that her great granddaughter would be on the news,
Mhm.
and making Black history. So, yeah, like it's amazing how we get to bring our ancestors into greatness with us,
Mhm.
and all they did was pray for us and love us, properly. But we
Mhm.
are able to put their names in a place where it'll never be forgotten.
Right.
So that was a amazing, amazing tribute. Um, and I appreciate it. And we talked about your publications, but do want to know, where can our audience follow you, find you, reach out to you, see you, any upcoming performances?
Mhm.
This is that time for you to
Y-
share all of that with us.
Of course. I'm the only Dasan Ahanu, I should be the only Dasan Ahanu out there. So if you look up Dasan Ahanu,
Mhm.
DASANAHANU, that's my website, dasanahanu.com. I'm Dasan Ahanu on all social media. You can find me on all streaming platforms if you want to listen to some of the things I've been doing, some of the guest appearances, and then I've done 3 editions of a series called Storyteller, 3 spoken word projects that you can go listen to as well. You can find the books under my name available anywhere that books are sold, but I always tell people just go to a local bookstore and order them. They're orderable. Go to a local
Mhm.
bookstore and see if they're ordering for you, man. Support our local bookstores. That's a very important thing. And you can find out what I got coming up next. I am you know, working to, figure out, what's the next big thing. Black Poetry Theater um is BlackPoetRyTheatre, not ER. And you can find Black Poetry Theater and see some of the things that we got going on. I'm still working Saints and Aints, which is the latest production, while developing our next kind of full stage production. Um, it's sort of this 70s, 80s set, uh, black led um, detective. play.
Ooh,
But yeah, just
okay.
continuing to work and continuing to kind of explore. But you can
Okay.
definitely follow me and keep track of what I got going on.
Fantastic. Well, everyone, as always, we had another great conversation. We thank you so much, Dasan, for being here with us today and for sharing your words and your wisdom and your community work, which I think is absolutely amazing. And I know that everyone will be as enriched as I have been. So, everybody, you've been listening to another First Sunday with Black Poet Laureates. To learn more about Dasan Ahanu, find the links to his books and any upcoming appearances and social media. You can look in our show notes, but as he said, he's the only Dasan Ahanu out there. So go ahead and just search up Dasan Ahanu. The National Black Poet Laureate Society is and has launched our website here in 2026. And you will be able to explore our directory as we continue to add Black Poet Laureates to it on a monthly basis. Please be ready to pre-order Volume 2 of In Fullness of the Word, an anthology of Black Poet Laureates in the United States. We hope to have it ready for you by Christmas this year. And visit the website, follow us on social media, and that's Facebook. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with fellow poetry lovers all over the nation. Join us on the next First Sunday, where we will have another powerful conversation with a Black Poet Laureate that is changing our world. Until next time, keep the words flowing and the legacy growing.